Morning, guys. It is 5:32 a.m. I'm gonna do something different. I've been doing coloring books, so now I want to do a coloring book of fairies, but I want to make it legit because there's so much more to fairies than people realize. So much more. There are real fairies. We'll get that far. We'll get there though. We're gonna start reading some things, okay? Okay, so where I'm gonna start is Victorian, because that's what people usually think. People usually think of Victorian fairy tales. They think of like Rumpelstiltskin or anything with Dickens, or like the Grimm brothers or any of that. That's all Victorian. All of that is Victorian. So I'm trying to think of like classic Victorian fairy tales, but I can't think of that. Okay, well, let's start reading. Okay. Oh shit, I almost just spilled my coffee. Okay. In 1846, William John Thoms, who contributed the term folklore to English language, commented in the Athenaeum that belief in fairies is by no means extinct in England. For believers were not limited to gypsies, fishfolk, rural cottagers, country parsons, and Irish mystics. Antiquarians of the Romantic era had begun the quest for fairies throughout the Victorian reign, and advocates of fairy existence and investigators of elven origins included numerous scientists, historians, theologians, artists, and writers. By the 1800s, such leading folklorists and anthropologists, a lot of names, I'm not naming all those names, okay, were examining oral testimonies on the nature and the customs of little folk, and the historical and archaeological remains left by them. At the beginning of the 20th century, eminent authors, among them Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, swelled the ranks for those who held the fairy faith, and publicized their findings. In remarkable trickle-up of folk belief, a large number of educated Romantics, Victorians, and Edwardians speculated on length where other fairies did or didn't exist. Basically, it's just saying that, okay, so there is an English, Irish, and Scottish fairy religion that, I guess that would be considered like Gnostic, or even like before Gnostic. Basically, it's one of the first religions of the area. Celtic, Druidism, fairy folklore. The three different main religions of the area before the Romans took over. And personally, I believe in fairies. I believe in fairies. It's one of my only like real beliefs. So, sharing it with you guys. Okay. For the Irish, especially those involved in Celtic revival, belief in fairies was a political and cultural necessity. Thus, William Butler Yeats lamented his inability to speak directly to Sidhe Irish fairies. The Donaghshí are also Irish fairies. Anything with the last name she in it is like the fairy folk. So like Banshee. Banshee is a type of fairy. That's the only one that I know that people know for sure. And it's a type of Irish fairy. The Irish, above all else, believe in fairies because they ruled them. So last year, I've always been believing in fairies here, so last year I found this little bit of information about the Tuatha De Danann. The Tuatha De Danann, or the Donaghshí, are... Let's look at my little... I have an image. You guys, I have an image thing over here, so I'm going to look up the Tuatha De Danann. I can't spell it. Okay. This is the picture that usually comes up. Oh, shit. The riders of the city. And this is the image that most people think of when they think of of the Tuatha De Danann. They were said to come on the mists. They arrived all of a sudden in Ireland on the mists out on sea on floating boats. It didn't seem like the boats were even sailing. All of a sudden they were there, and they were tall, and they were fair-skinned, and basically everything that you think of an elf, like a Tolkien elf, is what these fairies were. Okay. I keep doing that. Really? I hate you. Okay. There you are. Really? Fine, I'll go find something else to read. Different reference. I already have stuff up. The reason we're starting in the Victorian is because it's a reference point. I really just want to jump in with Irish. I really do, but then it's kind of taking away from any kind of relativity. Like, oh yeah, off in the woods of Ireland, of course there'd be fairies. No, okay, so this is kind of a universal thing. It's like around the whole world. The reason that I even believe in this is because I used to research ancient religions and ancient cultures and stuff, right? Just for fun. And eventually, after you start researching enough of them, you realize that there are repeat stories. There are identical stories in all of them. Not saying that there's like a motif that goes through all of them perfectly. No. But fairies. There's always talk of fairies. There's always talk of the little people. The little folk, the other folk, the builders, always. Even here in Hawaii, there's this thing called a menehine. Even in China, even the Native Americans. The Native Americans even have little people. Pretty much any culture you can think of, I have some kind of reference for a fairy, or a fairy tale, or the fae people. Getting back into my references. A need for belief, the Victorians and fairies. This is what you usually think of fairies. This is the average, this is why I'm starting here, this is what you think of. You think of gnomes, and you think of pixies, and you think of the elves. These are the elves. I'm not showing my tits. It's not gonna happen. I like having this here. Ugh. Sorry. I know you guys can't see this, but my mod thing caught it. And this guy's like, 750. Show me your tits right now. You know that there's better sides for this, right? Like, oh man, I'm gonna go on Twitch and see if I can get people to show me your tits. I have a life. I'm not reading documents. And people are like, oh, that's sexy. I would agree with you, sir. Okay. During the Romantic period, and when I say Romantic period, I don't mean like love. I mean like during Rome's reign. During Rome's reign. That's why we have the Romantic languages. It's nothing to do with love. It's all about to do with Rome. I need to put something on for the girls. Okay. It's okay. You're fine. No, my fucking's dying. Fuck. Oh, you guys can still hear me. How is that even possible? How does it die for me? But you guys can still see it. I'm going. my life. Oh, by the way, guys, I have a coloring book out. I have two, actually. Almost three. Okay. Let's read this. My hair starts out with curls and then it just dies on me. Like, it's like that. Okay. It was during the Romantic period that there was rebirth in fairy culture, due to the people's desire to advert to a simpler, more natural life. I wonder what's happening now. They turned to a country folk as an example of how to live, and at the same time, the Brothers Grimm were collecting German folk stories, compiling them into their book of fairy tales. The book was a huge success in Britain. Hi. Ooh, Archangel. Miroliel. I like your name. I can't pronounce it, but I like it. I need to go give the baby a bottle. 1 second, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay, let's try again. Miroliel. Did I pronounce it right? Did I do it? I'm not very good at pronunciations, so. Okay, back to what I was saying. Okay. Just like I mentioned, the Brothers Grimm. I love archangels. I love culture, and I love ancient stories, and I love religion, especially ancient religions. Not like a religion fanatic. I just like comparing them. Okay, so I like that your name is Archangel and it ends with El, because that makes sense. Okay, back to what I was saying. Talking about the Brothers Grimm. Okay. There were roots of Celtic folklore still present in places like Cornwall, the Isle of Man, and the Scottish Highlands, and the redesigned fairy of Shakespeare were considered the part of British fairies past. People needed something like fairies, a reference to a simpler and more traditional time, in order to manifest their fears for the conquest of the rapidly industrializing Britain. Explanations for the fairies varied across those who researched them. Significantly, Sir Walter Scott, Robert Southey, Anna, I can't pronounce any of these. Those people all began primarily researching on them in the 1790s. Each came up with different hypotheses. Scott was unable to deny the existence of fairies because he thought that people who believed in any sort of deity could not deny the possible existence of others. I like that. I feel like that's actually very nice. I'm like, my mom is super Christian, and I just like religions, and I'm supportive of her Christianity, but I can't tell her anything because she gets on me about it. I mean, I bought a book. It's called Celtic Magic or something like that, and it's about the ancient lore of Ireland and the ways and the rituals and the people. And she's like, "Oh, watch out, the devil's in that book." I'm like, "Dude, our ancestry is in this book." Ugh. Sorry, that was a rant. Back to what I was saying. Southey linked their existence to that of the Druids, who went into hiding from invaders in ancient times since had been living in the forests and stealing women and children in order to continue their existence. What? In 1790? Oh my god, I have to look this up. Wait, what? How long? That's not what I said. That's not what I said. When did they go extinct? 1st century AD? Damn. Oh, no. Okay. So, the archangels end with EL. Like, the cherubs, they don't need to. The powers and thrones, they don't need to. But archangels traditionally end in the EL. Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, Uriel, Azazel, all of them end with EL. I'm annoyed because I like this. I really want to believe that in 1790s that there were druids living in the woods and taking away women and children to exist. That is a cool story. I'm stealing this whole thing. Site URL. Sorry, I like references. I don't like that everyone doesn't have references anymore. Like, they're like, oh, I read somewhere this. And I'm like, dude, didn't. Come on. This is the first day I'm doing this, so if it seems like sporadic, it's because I'm sporadic. I do believe in incarnation. Honestly, I've told my mom for the reference. It's really early here. I do believe in incarnation. I believe that I actually have the soul of an angel. This is why I'm all hung up on your name. Ever since I was a kid, like I told you, my mom's recently Christian, but I was raised like pagan. Like I was raised like on hippie communes, basically, and on like the Grateful Dead. My mom's name is Rainbow. But ever since I was little, I've been drawing angels. I've been obsessed with angels, like beyond obsessed. And like there's little tiny things where like I don't know, like I had a cat. And my cat would literally like attack my wings, my ethereal wings. You know, it kind of sounds crazy, but I don't know. I do believe that I have the soul of an angel. Like, went right into crazy today, folks. Okay, so you don't think I'm crazy? That's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. And like I don't know, okay, so I've been in like really low spots, and I've always been like this like bright light, right? And I went to jail once, right? I went to jail and I met this chick. She's a black chick. She was super ghetto, she's super little pocket thug, right? And I happened to serve isolation with her in my little tank, and so we ended up doing a lot of talking, and she wanted to know about the Bible, and so I'd be reading the Bible to her, or she'd be reading the Bible, and she'd be like, Kat, I need your help, and she's like, what does this mean? And so like I'd have to take like little pieces of the Bible and be like, I had to ghettoify them for her. I'd be like, yo, Jesus walked in like this, and he's like, fuck all your fools. Like you alright? My baby has been teething. But yeah, no, and then eventually that lady, she went on to like get out of jail, get out of the hood, get out away from the drug scene. She ended up becoming like a caseworker for like drug addicts. She ended up turning around her whole life just because she met me. And then later on, she met my mom in the same facility, like this gospel rescue mission, the one that turned her life around. And she's like, do you really believe that Kat is an angel? Like, yeah, I really do believe that Kat's an angel. So, yeah. Fun stories. Fun. Okay, so back to the story. Back in 1790s, I really want more proof of this. Thank you. I try. I try to be like positive and light no matter where I am, you know? Be an example. Okay. I want to know more about this. Okay, wait. Southey linked it to the Druids. Eventually, I'm going to find proof that the Druids were taking away women and children to make them so that they could exist more. It's a fucking good story. Okay. Next one. Bray suggested that the beginnings were linked to the souls of children who died before they were baptized so that they were trapped on Earth. Whoa, that's dark. And Crocker concluded that before Christianity dominated Europe, fairy lore did. And that one's true. It was due to these people's research that the search for fairies became more scientific. The Victorians were meticulous in grounding their beliefs in fact, but their curiosity was unquenchable. Hence their fascination with the concept of other worlds, like that of the dead. Ooh. Artifacts like arrowheads or small smoking pipes were now attributed to the existence of fairies. And then there were high-profile cases of this, like the fairy flang at Dunvegan Castle. The story behind this was that while out hunting one day, Lane Clare, the king of the castle, spotted a fairy princess. They both fell in love instantly. However, when they wished to marry, the king of the fairies wouldn't allow it, as fairies are immortal beings and the king would eventually grow old and die. Eventually he gave in, on the condition that she could only stay for a year, and then she had to leave and return to the world of the fairies. During this year, the king and the fairy princess wedded and had a son, but when she had to leave, she gave the flag as a gift to her husband. She said that he could use it 3 times to call for help, and armed men would appear. I love fairy stories. Did you know that there's a fairy story here about the Menehune, right? They're supposed to be little tiny Hawaiian fairies. They call them the builders. The rock wall, like that is here all over the place, isn't Hawaiian or Polynesian. So the story goes that you're supposed to take a bunch of rice and a bunch of hog and a bunch of stuff, put it in tea leaves, and mark out a wall with all of these offerings, right? And that's where the Menehune knew where to build. So you give them all these offerings, and it's said that you come back the next day and a wall will be built. A whole rock wall. I absolutely adore this story. There's a rock wall, like literally like right out here, and like these things seem to fit in perfectly. They just fit, like kind of like the rocks in Peru, and how they're really tight and stuff. It just seems like they're meant to be together. I have no idea how to explain that better. Okay. I like that we're starting in the Victorian era. Okay. Theories explaining the existence of fairies produced during the Victorian era can be categorized into those believing in Christianity and those not. People struggled to believe in fairies, and as it went against Christian teachings, but by basing an explanation for them in Christianity, the guilt lessened. Some believed that they were angels stuck between heaven and hell, and others whose soul were trapped on earth. Others believed the roots in the belief of fairies were based on pre-Christian ways of life, where Britain was divided into tribes when stories were made up about rivals in order to justify their fear of them. Considering the British fascination with fairies and the idea of another world, it can be understood why people wanted to believe in stunts such as the Cotigli fairies. Oh, is that the chicks? We're going to look that up in a second. The nation was desperate to believe in something outside the realms of dismay, smoggy, and gray reality that was facing them during the Industrial Revolution. I'm pretty sure the Cotigli fairies is that story about those girls that, yeah, okay, these guys. That made both of them go bigger. Okay, so these guys, the Cantigli fairies, these were two little girls that got access to a camera. All of these little pictures right here, this, they tried to pass it off that they were real, that their brother had died about 2 years prior, and he was the one that actually painted these fairies and made all of these little like cutout things, right? They came across this and decided, in order to cheer up their mom, they were going to play pretend like fairies were real, because their mom was depressed. Dad comes across the camera, comes across the pictures, goes, oh, yeah, see, I love fairies. There's so much to know about them. And people just think it's just fairy tales. Okay, back to the story. So, they take this camera to their mom. Their mom takes the camera to their dad. Their dad's like, oh my gosh, we have proof of real fairies. And like we just read, back in the Victorian era, this was a big thing. They wanted scientific proof that these things were real because they didn't want to live in a concrete box anymore. They're like, the industrial era is killing my soul. Let's believe in fairies, right? What happens is they take these photographs to professionals, and at the time the professionals are like, we don't see any foul play. We don't, like, it didn't look like photo manipulation because these things were cutouts. They didn't alter the photo's real. So eventually they come back, these scientists, these great minds come back to these girls with more cameras and are like, do it again, and this time we'll watch. Eventually they trick the guy into not following them. He walks into a toadstool ring and they're like, you have to stay here, otherwise you're gonna be cursed. They run away. They come back with the camera. These are the original photos. If you look at the photos in which they got afterwards, I want the photos. Basically, way later, when the Cantigli girls, one of them died and the other one was like 80 years old, right? They said that, yeah, most of these pictures are fake. Most of them. And then there's this picture. They said they were sitting around and trying to figure out how they were going to get away with this, right? Shit. Open image. How they were going to get away with this, right? And they're like, fuck, we're found out. Like, we're not going to be able to find another picture of a fairy, right? Because all of our cutouts are in a different place. So they're sitting down in the grass, and they noticed things were moving. Things were materializing. So they take this picture. This picture, way later, one of the Cantigli sisters say, is a real picture. They took it because fairies started to appear. If you look at this picture, this isn't cutouts. None of these are cutouts. None of these are, like, it's see-through. They're see-through. So unless they somehow made see-through cutouts that seem to be moving, this might actually be a real picture. And according to the 80-year-old Cantigli sister talking to her grandchild, they said that, yeah, most of them were faked, but she knew that fairies were real because of this picture. So that's the Cantigli sisters. Eventually they got in trouble. For faking these pictures. And it was this huge thing, actually. Once it was in the news, all of these people started to congregate onto their property, looking for these fairies. Like, hundreds and hundreds of people all summer long. Like, it wasn't just like this one little thing. Okay. And I digress. Okay. That was very interesting. But basically, what I'm getting at is that they didn't really know what to think of fairies. The English kind of got baffled by them. There was this, like, revival. There was a revival of fairy lore, but they turned into, like, I don't know, like Rumpelstiltskin. Or, like, the gnomes. Like the yard gnomes. That's what they turned into. Were these, like, silly, goofy little I don't know, kind of dorky things. Instead of what we see in this picture over here, right above me, the Tuatha De Danann, which were these honorable, like they walked with a type of awe. They were bigger than you. And even like the little fairies in this picture, like, I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but there's in the picture right above me, there's this little animal right there with wings, and it kind of looks like a dinosaur. That thing is also a fairy. That little tiny one right there. So there's like the big people, the big people, the big people, the big people, and then there's like that little tiny thing. So it wasn't just a people, it was like a whole race of beings, right? And they were magically, like, just had an awe about them, and the English Victorian era just kind of reduced them down into silly fairy tales. Fairy tales. Okay. We're gonna read this and see. I don't know if I trust this one as much because of all the ads. Okay. Do you believe in fairies? As a child, my parents told me that when a tooth fell out, I should place it under the pillow and the tooth fairy would come and take it away. By the way, one of the most occultist things ever. Not only that, but the fairy would leave a shiny 5-penny piece in exchange. How exciting. So far, they're telling me nothing. Alright, here. Originating in English folklore, the earliest mentions of fairies are in the writings of Gervase of Tilbury, 12th century English scholar and canon laird. I feel like this is only in England. Here. Okay, so what was it? 12th century? That would be 11 since 17 BC. I guess it would be right. How is that possible? Oh, no, this is BC. Okay, so that's why Tuatha De Danann totally predates any mention of fairy in England. Okay. Well, okay, guys. It is hot. I need more coffee. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of information that I needed to sift through. I have no idea how I'm going to make this book. There's just too much information. I mean, I want to do this so bad. There's no way I'm not going to, but like, it might be a big book, it might not be. It might be like a reoccurring little series thing. Okay, either way, I'm done for this morning, guys. I'm going to be doing this more often because I really want to make this book. So I'm going to be sharing information with you guys. It's a lot different than what I'm used to doing, but I like doing this a lot. It's just like my calling. I want to tell people about the fairies. Okay, well, I am done. And I will see you next time, most likely tomorrow morning. I've also made a coloring book, and I will share the link on my Twitter. Peace.